for the opportunity to speak again. Because last time when I spoke, I loved it and I knew I wanted to continue doing it. So when I said I could speak again, I was excited. So tonight I want to actually open up with a vision I had, and then I'll get into the title of the message. But the vision pretty much correlates with the title, so it all fits in. You'll understand once I start. So the vision starts off as a man it's a vision I had, a man standing on the top of the tip of a skyscraper. It looks as if every direction he turns, there's no way out. I then heard a voice say, "It looks like every place you turn, you'll fall. But if you trust me, I will catch you. You just have to trust me." So the title of tonight's message is Sitting in a One-Legged Chair. Now, I know you're probably confused on the title, so let me explain. It's, when you go and sit in a normal four-legged... Now think if God told you to go sit in a four-legged chair, you wouldn't think twice about it, and you would not hesitate whatsoever. But if he told you to trust him and with a four-legged chair, you would trust him. But if he told you to trust him to sit in a one-legged chair, then you'd start to hesitate and you'd let the spirit of fear rest upon you.
Come on.
Now, that really correlates, and it's really how society is today with God. You say you're a Christian, and if God tells you to go and pray for that friend of yours when you go home tonight, then you'll do it because no one sees you. It's not that big of a deal. But if God told you to go and lay hands with someone at Walmart or at school, for instance, then you start hesitating and start thinking of every bad possibility ever. But if you just trust him, then you'll see that he has it all worked out. It actually, this kind of hits me. Last Monday, I was here at a night of prayer in the sanctuary, and I was just praying, and I felt God tell me, you need to go to Walmart tonight. Now, I don't really go to Walmart a lot, and he told me, you need to go to Walmart. So I told my mom, we need to go to Walmart. She asked me, what do you need from Walmart? I'm like, I don't know. I just need to go to Walmart. So we go to the Walmart in Robertsdale. She drops me off, and I walk in, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just walking in. I'm like, Holy Spirit, you have to lead me, because I just walk in clueless. So I just start walking around, and I walk past this one girl, and I felt something, that feeling. So I stopped, and I turned around, and I started following her. Now, I don't know how it seemed to her. I followed her in a very casual way, and she was working back at the garden area, and she had, it was her and then another employee. So I didn't really know how to talk to her, so what I did is I grabbed a little pack of juicy fruit gum and just threw it on the cash register and just paid for that, and then started just sharing the gospel with her. I mean, it works, so you don't really have to have a lot of money. You can just throw something real quick on there.
Come on.
But I just started talking to her and just sharing the gospel with her. Turns out her brother is a Christian, but he's apostolistic, so they have their hair real long. They the guys and girls sit on opposite sides. And she's always said she never agreed with him, and that's really ruined their relationship. And then I went to ask her, do you have any pain, any physical pain? She said no at first, and then I asked her again, and she said, well, I have asthma. So I asked her if I could pray with her. Now, if you would have known me a year ago, I wouldn't have really talked to her. I would have just acted like she wouldn't really have existed. But in this case, I felt like I needed to pray with her, so I just started praying with her. And I just held her hand and I prayed with her, just a quick, simple prayer, but it still got to the point and hit it head on. And I asked her afterwards, did you feel anything? She says, yes, I felt a little tingly feeling. I was a little shocked, honestly. I'm like, I started freaking out, but she couldn't see it. And I asked her to explain the tingly feeling. She said it's like a feeling of excitement. I'm like, a feeling of heat rushing through your body. She's like, yeah. So I'm like, you were just healed of asthma. And she didn't really believe me. I'm like, just go to the doctor next time and see if you still have asthma. And if you do, highly doubt that, but if you don't, then that will just prove to you right there that God's still working in your life.
Come on.
Now, trusting God is it's something that we all struggle with. Me personally, I struggle with it. I always start hesitating and thinking of every wrong possibility. But the true meaning of trusting God is more than what we realize. Trusting God means trusting Him no matter what the situation looks like. Trusting God is trusting Him even if the doctor says it looks bad, even if the war seems endless, and even if the situation looks hopeless. Trusting God is more than just saying you trust God. It is showing it by not worrying about the battle you are in and knowing that He has already won the war. Amen. You don't have to worry about anything if you trust Him. You trust Him in the small battles and the large battles.
Come on now.
Now, I've had someone tell me this. It was not even kidding. He told me, I believe in God, and I know He exists, but I don't trust He wrote the Bible. He said, how do you not know that men wrote the Bible? And I tried to explain to him in a very soft way. He wasn't really budging. And then I just finally told him, it's like, sometimes you just know something when you know it. It's like, I know that He wrote the Bible even if you don't. I know He is real, and no man on earth can tell me different. No one can tell me that God didn't set me free from pornography. No one can tell me that God didn't keep His promise in my life. No one can tell me that God did not fill me with the Holy Spirit and I don't walk and breathe God every day. No one can tell me the Bible isn't real because it might not be real to you, but it is real to me.
Amen.
I know the Bible is real because I feel it every day. I meditate on the Bible.
Come on.
And it is something that makes me smile just thinking about. And I'll be honest, and it might sound weird, but every now and then I'll just go and kiss my Bible. I mean, it's weird, yes, but I'll be so excited. I'll just kiss my Bible, and I'll sleep with my Bible on my chest because I never want to lose His presence. I just want it as close as possible all the time. Now, this kind of leads into a story of my mom. Back in 2017, before a lot of chaos broke out, my mom was in worship in the sanctuary. She was just in it and all, and she was just praying to God, and she told God, I don't care if we have to live in a tent. I just never want to lose Your presence. Now, right after that, it was when her brother got diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer. Our house basically was sold out from underneath us, so we had to live with a family, which was very kind, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have anywhere to stay. So we had to move and live with them for a bit in their basement apartment. And all this stuff broke out, but during that whole period of time, He never took His presence away. He was always there, no matter what.
Come on.
And another story of my mom, with trust, my mom recently had a screening done, and they called her back and said that they found, wasn't expecting to get emotional, but they said they found 2 spots on her. And one of them looks really bad and the other not so much, but they want to call her back in for a second screening. So she goes, and she doesn't tell any of us. And she's just praying, and God tells her, just don't worry. Just trust me. And then that Sunday morning that Mike Bowles was here, she was at the altar, and she could see a vision of God just blowing His breath all over the altar, all over everyone up there. And when she went in for her second screening, they said the spot that looked the worst is gone. And the other spot doesn't look that bad, so just an annual checkup in 6 months. Now, if she wouldn't have trusted God, we don't really know where we would be today. I don't know if I'd actually be speaking here today. But because she had faith and she trusted God, she was able, to be healed. Now, faith and trust are 2 different things. You may think they're the same, but they're really different. Faith is found in Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance in what we don't see. Faith is taking a step out. Like as Burke said, instead of taking a leap of faith, he took a step of faith. Peter took a step of faith into the water. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take a step of faith, and you're not supposed to jump out. You're supposed to take a step and just observe, and you might not believe it, but you still take that step. And trust, in the Webster Dictionary, is a firm belief in the character, the ability, the strength, and the truth of someone or something. Another definition is a person or thing in which confidence is placed. So I want to ask you, do you have a firm belief in the character, in the ability, in the strength, and in the truth of God? Do you have your confidence placed in him? Because if you don't, then I'm not really sure you trust him. I've had to ask myself this question. Do I have my firm belief in his character, in his ability, in his truth, in his strength? Because if I don't, then I have to start working on it. But I have another question. How can you trust someone you don't know? You don't go up and trust a stranger off the street with your wallet because you don't know them. You will never trust God if you don't know him. If you do not spend time with him each and every day, then you'll never trust him. You may think you trust him, but wait till that situation comes up and your so-called trust in God will seem invisible because of the situation. Your so-called trust in God will not be visible because of the fear of the situation. How do you get to know God? You have to spend time with the Lord to trust him. You have to have a relationship with him to trust him. If you do not have a relationship as a cornerstone of your trust in him, then every time a little wind blows, the building will collapse and the trust seems to evaporate. I don't know about you, but I can't help but trust the man who saved me. It's natural. It's just something, I just trust him with everything in my life. Now, back before the ramp, my brother, he was off on the deep end a little bit. He walked away from God. And, as a sibling who's lived with him his whole life, I was honestly scared. But, I just started praying. I started praying for him each and every night. Every time I would spend time with God, I would pray for him. And I started prophesying over him. And I would believe right then and there, and I had trust in God that he would set him free and that he'd be changed. When we went to the ramp, and at all the conferences, the first few, to me, it seemed like he wasn't really receiving anything. And I started getting worried. I'm like, what if we go through the whole conference and he doesn't feel anything? I started thinking of that, and then God told me, he's like, I told you to trust me, so trust me. So I backed off, and I'm like, I trust you. When we went to the baptisms, I had already been baptized, and they gave their last call for baptisms. I looked over, and my brother's taking off his shoes. And he went up to my dad and asked him if he'd go in with him. So they both walked in the water. And my brother was walking in the water still very angry. He didn't really seem receiving much. And one little man just laid his hand on his head, and he broke right there. If you know him, you know he does not cry, ever. And he started just crying, and like he couldn't even stand. And then when they put him underneath the water and brought him back out, he was one of the ones you saw on the side because he was shaking. They had to drag him off and out of the water and onto the side, and he doesn't remember a thing. He doesn't remember going underwater. Last thing he remembers is a hand on his head, and that's it. But ever since then, he's been changed. He's not acting the same. He started doing things a little bit different, and it took a lot of trust in God right then and there to know that no matter what, he was going to take care of my brother. Now, if it was me a year ago, I don't know if I would trust him. I would have many doubts. I would start hesitating. I'd start thinking of every possibility. But I trusted him with this, and I saw my brother change forever. Now, this verse is found in Deuteronomy 33:27. This verse might seem a little different, but the perspective I'm hitting it from, the perspective I see it from, is different. It's the eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. Now think of it. The arms of God are underneath you, ready to catch you. But you have the choice to either trust him and fall back into his arms and let him take on the worries of the world and the stress of the world and all the pain that you go through, or let the spirit of fear overpower you and you'll never see the true power of God. So, as I close tonight, I just want to ask, do you trust God? If you were to go through a checklist of each and everything I've named tonight, and you were able to say that you trust God, then that's amazing. But if you can't say that you fully trust God with everything you have, then I'm going to give you a choice tonight. If you can't answer that question, and if you don't, or if you feel like you want your trust and your faith and all that restored, then I'm going to ask the leaders to come down, and if you want to come up to the altar, and if it doesn't matter if it's one person, two, it doesn't matter who's looking. Because we all go through things each and every day. I got to the point in life where I stopped caring who's looking and who's watching. But if you want your trust restored, then I'm going to give you the opportunity to come up here. The altar's open. And you can get your trust restored, because it took me time on my knees in my bedroom to get my trust restored in God. And ever since then, I've never doubted Him. I've just, you take care of it. So if you want your trust restored, then the altars are open.